Hello and welcome to our Origin sneak peek where we're looking at the cards for the ears today. We have this cute little boy sitting up there poking his pillow, and I'm going to wonder what that exactly is. So all hands on deck, we're going to talk about the soft launch. It's okay. The soft launch will happen once we get all of our cards out. Let's open up with the reptile. So looking at the reptile, right, we have our first one, Frizzardo. Okay, randomly apply effect 4 times to your team. Heal and apply 1 damage boost each time. So this is a ×4 multiplier, right? So this is an 80 heal, which is good. The only problem is random. This could go to a full health Axie, this could go to a damaged Axie, you can't tell. And then we have the damage boost, which damage boost, I believe, is a plus flat number for one attack. For one attack. I believe that's the way they are going to do it. If not, I think it'd be too strong otherwise, right? It could be any number though. It could be +1, it could be +5, we're not sure. Okay, and then next we have our small frill. Apply 3 poison to all enemies. Heal this Axie for 30 HP. So this is a 30 heal. Hold up. This is a 30 heal. And 3 poison for all enemies, right? But 3 poison, I think, will tick just... So that means it'll be 3 damage per. So essentially, it's 9 damage, right? And then each turn, it'll tick down. So then the next turn, it'll be 2 stacks, which means it'll drop down to 6. And then the last one, it'll be 1, so it'll be 3, right? So what do we have? Math, 18. 18 damage. So it's not a lot of damage. That's how poison works. We'll see how much is the poison. I think the way poison works, in my opinion, is that poison's gonna tick down. In Slay the Spire, poison starts at a number, and each turn it drops by 1. So we'll see. I think that's the way poison works. If not, it won't make sense. They said they're changing poison. Sorry. And then we have the swirl here, right? The swirl is apply 3 confuse into your opponent's discard pile. So if you guys are wondering what confused is a card like this, where it is a 0 cost and it banishes at the end of turn. The reason why this is annoying is because you put 3 cards into your deck that you could potentially brick. So if you draw all 3 confuse on your next turn, you only have 2 cards left to play. And that is actually designed to break your opponent's combos. If you draw it at the wrong time, you have a dead card in your hand. You pretty much just have to pass. And that's the way it goes. And now we have Sidebar. So we got poison. This is a lot of poison on the reptiles. We have apply 2 poison and bleed for 4 turns to a random enemy. Okay, interesting. So the poison is cute, but the bleed is interesting. So bleed for 4 turns. Guys, if you guys are wondering what bleed is damage per card played. Damage per card on that Axie with bleeding. It's Rupture from Bloodseeker if you guys have ever seen it. It's where you bleed out of your skin. The more you do, the more you move, the worse it gets. So you have to sit still and do nothing. Right now we're looking at Pagona. Apply Fragile for 4 turns. Fragile is exactly what it is. It's actually, it's a percentage decrease on shields. It's percentage down on shield. So it's something like 25%. So your shields played on that guy will actually be less and less effective. Right? So this is going to be very, very annoying. This is designed to make it so tanks can play shields, but a lot weaker. Okay, and the last one we have for the reptiles is the Curved Spine. Target any ally, so it applies the 60 shield to any ally. Next turn, after the target is attacked, apply bleed for 4 turns. Right? So that means that guy, if he hits you, you bleed. You accidentally bleed yourself. Which is interesting, because if you hit this with, let's say you have one Axie that hits this with 3 cards, right? That means after the first hit, you will start bleeding, and that means your next 2 cards will apply the bleed damage. Because you're bleeding yourself. You start off bleeding the instant you hit it. So that means it's similar to hitting a yam. If you hit it early, you start taking yourself right away. So Reptiles seems to be very poison heavy and very bleed heavy. Now we're taking a look at the Aquas. Aquas are going to be very interesting because the most important thing here is because everyone is playing Aqua parts for the speed, right? We got rid of speed. But now everyone has Aqua parts because we need the fast cards. Either Aqua for life and speed, or we have Bird for just speed. Okay, so taking a look at this, it's going to be important because a lot of my Axies will actually have this. Gain 1 energy on Nemo if this Axie's HP is full. So this is the most useful on an Axie that on a team that can heal. So things like Anemone is going to be really important. So if you look at your anemones, check to see if you have a Nemo on the ear. This is going to be a 25 heal normally though, right? It's a 0 cost 25 heal, and it gains 1 energy if this Axie's HP is full. So if you're not full, you can play this on yourself, heal yourself for 25, and then play another one if you have another one on a different Axie, and then you'll get the energy out of it. It's going to be pretty hard though. All you have to do is keep your Axies damaged. So if you guys are ever fighting against the guy with Nemo ear, just keep damaging them, and they won't get to play out their free energy. We have Tiny Fan here, which is a 0 cost as well. Draw 1 card and gain 3 damage boost. Right, so that's the plus. That's the, oops, sorry. It's going to be a plus X amount of damage, right? For your next 3 attacks, I believe. Or maybe for this turn. We don't know yet. But this is another 0. So if you notice that we have 2 zeros here, and that's going to be interesting because people say zeros are good, but there's going to be a big problem. If you have all zeros, you keep drawing zeros, that's going to actually break your hand because you play 5 zeros, you have 3 energy, you can't use it because we can't hold energy anymore, right? So you want a good balance. Okay, and then we have this one. Gil is interesting because this one is actually not present in Slay the Spire. 50 damage here and gained 1 bubble. So what 1 bubble, I believe? It will either be, I think it might be either an artifact, which is block. It will block 1 status effect. Or it might not be. It might actually be something a little different. It will be block 1 attack. Or it's either 1 status or 1 attack, right? If you guys know about Hearthstone, it's the same as Divine Shield, I believe. You put up a bubble, and the bubble has to be popped before they can attack. Or before they can take damage, right? So this would be good to counter out damage. If you play this on an Axie to keep it from losing damage or losing health, therefore you can play the Nemo because now you have full HP to play that 1 energy from that Nemo. Okay, and then we have the Sea Slug here. Sea Slug here, Cleanse. Okay, so Cleanse is interesting because I don't know if it's proactive or retroactive. Because now this is Cleanse 2 debuffs on a 2 energy, so this is quite expensive. But at 110, it's not bad because it's about 55 damage per energy. So it's still not bad. The average is about 60, right? It's about 60 plus an effect. But the only thing is gain 2 Cleanser. This, I believe, is actually artifact. This should actually block 2 status effects, I think. I believe this blocks 2 status effects. Or, an interesting thing is, if a status effect gets applied, does it use up 1 cleanser to... I mean, that's the same thing. That is the same thing. So, I don't know... The thing is, I don't know if this is... You have to use it right away. No, because it says gain 2 cleanser, right? So this, yeah, this blocks 2 status effects. This makes the most sense. Because if you had to use this on someone else, it doesn't make sense. This doesn't target other Axies. So now this blocks status effects. That means Bubble is actually blocking. So this Bubble here on the Bubble Maker is block 2 attacks. Interesting, because Bubble Maker, very interesting in the fact that it is a 50 shield plus blocking 2 attacks. I think that's actually ridiculously strong. This card is going to get nerfed. This will get nerfed 100%. Either it'll nerf it down to 1 bubble here, or they will remove this. There's no way this card can stay like that. Okay, next we have the Inkling. Shuffle 1 Jinx into your opponent's discard pile. What is a Jinx? What is a Jinx? We know what a Jinx is. Jinx is a play 1. It costs 1 energy. And you must play to remove. Play to banish. Because unlike Daze here, I will show you guys, is or Confuse rather, is a 0 cost that banishes it on its own. So you just have to pass and it will remove itself. But Jinx is, it will stay in your deck indefinitely. Until you play it out, you're constantly Jinxed. It's like a curse, right? It stays in it until you can remove that curse. So it's going to be very, very annoying. So next time you draw it, you have 4 cards plus 1 Jinx. Either you play it or you play the other ones. The thing is, Jinx is good. The only thing is it's harder to play more of, because here, if we can see comparing to the Confused, this shuffles 3, right? On Confused it shuffles 3, but Jinx shuffles only 1. So Jinx is on its own a stronger card, I believe, right? So Jinx is essentially like stun. It would be debatable. It would be debatable. We still have to see, right? Because we're not 100% sure, because we have Jinx, we have Confuse, and we have Daze. The thing is, in Slay the Spire, if we're doing a front to back comparison, we have this card. This exists in Slay the Spire. It is the 0 cost. It is the 0 card banish. The only problem is which one is Confuse and which one is Jinx then? So because this is starting to look like Confuse is actually this card, unless they renamed it. Because I think Daze and Confuse would be roughly the same thing. Jinx is definitely going to be the 1 cost card though, because you're only shuffling in 1. Okay, next we have the little beast cards, which are super cute. Look at the Zen. Oh, actually, if you can tell right away, it's very supportive. We have a 65 heal. And initial, this Axie meditates. We have a wild card, ladies and gentlemen. This Axie meditates. So we don't know what this is. I believe this actually is a plus defense modifier in some way. Or it puts you into a calm form. Because if you guys know, on the beast, we have 2 forms. We have one form we know is Fury, right? On the imp, we know we can activate Fury form. That means if we meditate, well, we're going to go into the opposite, where we're going to go into a calm form. That will be one way of doing it. Okay, and then next we have the puppy, but this is also only initial. It has to be the first card played, so we're not 100% sure how well that will work, right? Because that means you can't... One thing that I would like to do in Slay the Spire is I can go into calm form, and then I can switch into Fury form, activate my damage, and then I would switch right back into calm form. But if this works like this, if it's initial, I can't go back and forth. You can only play 1 card at a time for initial. And next up, we have Puppy. 25 heal here. Heal your team, and if initial, remove 1 curse card from your deck. See, the thing is, what is the classification of curses? Is Jinx a curse? I don't believe Confuse is a curse. Jinx might be a curse, though. Daze might be a curse as well, but we might have a straight-up curse card. I think there was a curse from our last one, but if it's only removing curses, it's too much of a situational card. This would be a tech card. The only reason why it's not a terrible tech card is this is a 3 times... This is heal your team. Key thing to note here, it says heal your team. It doesn't say heal your Axies, so it will apply to your summons as well. We will have to see how much HP the summons will have though. If they're too soft, they would just die. Because if we have, say, 3 summons and 3 Axies on the full heal, this is actually, instead of it being a 6 heal or a 3 heal, it is now a 6 heal on 25. I don't believe it would be that ridiculous because I think that is too much. But I mean, it's a very situational card. If you play it and your Axies are full, it doesn't do anything. Next is we got the Innocent Lamb. It's so cute. It's drawing a picture, and this look, let's Grandpa on the back crying because it's like, oh, that artwork is beautiful. Okay, so it's a banish. So this is removed, right? This is removed after play. Select and add 1 copy of this Axie's skill card to your hand. One reason why this is interesting, because this is not draw. This does not draw a card. What this does is it duplicates 1 card. It adds 1 of a skill. Let's say you have Puppy. It would add Puppy, and if this is the only copy, now in your deck now has 2 copies of Puppy because you added it to your deck. Therefore, you cannot remove it. So what Innocent Lamb is, you play Innocent Lamb, remove it, and you add a copy of a specific skill card that you would want 2 of. You would duplicate a card you need. Let's say you're fighting an AoE team, you want Puppy because Puppy counters AoE. A poison team like that runs Yam, you want more versions of Puppy. But if you have an enemy team that focuses on single target, you would instead play Innocent Lamb onto a Zen, and because Zen is a 65 heal. If you have Zen on your tank, you want to keep playing it on your tank so that they cannot blow past it, because you can have 2 copies of it now. But ideally, you would not also play it on a card with initial because you don't want to have 2 of them. Because if you have 2 of them, you cannot play them at the same time. Okay, so next we have Believer. So Believer here is a 1 cost 20 damage card. Randomly deal 3 hits, so this is the 3 times multiplier. The reason why these are useful is because if the plus X damage boost is persistent for the turn, it would get a multiplier. So this is plus onto this, it would be multiplied. So this is, if this is say plus X, let's say 5, we add 5 to this. So this would be actually 25 times 3. So you would get a little bit of bonus damage. and it gains 1 rage per enemy hit. I believe rage is going to be a meter. I think people have roughly estimated it at a meter. Let's say it would be X out of 3. And once you get 3 rage, right? Once you get 3 out of 3, whoops, you enter rage. You enter rage. The interesting thing is, it seems like rage is actually best used as a beast mechanic. Beasts tend to have rage cards, while I think on default, Axies, when they die, will give rage. I think that's gonna be how it works. So you can get rage yourself as a beast, or you can get it naturally when Axies die. Okay, next up we have the Nutcracker on 60. The Nutcracker, all Nutcracker cards gain 6 damage, so it's correct. So if you actually have 3 Nutcracker cards, which is what everyone's gonna be aiming for, this will actually become, so we'll have 6 times 3. I believe it only applies to yourself. All Nutcracker cards of this Axie gain 6 damage this battle. I don't think it stacks. Because the thing is, all Nutcracker cards of this Axie... Okay, no, this is fine. It can stack. So we do 6 times 3 here. So at most, it's going to equal... So this added together with that, it's going to be 78 damage per card, right? And that's going to be really, really nice. Because on average, it's about 60 damage per card. Right, so this will make it significantly better. The only thing is the Nutcracker cards are actually going to have 0 effects. So if you have a million Nutcracker cards, you play them for damage, but you have 0 effects. Right, it's just a pure damage card. And then next we have Nyan, which is very adorable. So it's 65, right? So it's a little bit less than the Nutcracker. Deal 15 bonus damage against a bleeding enemy. This is odd because it doesn't seem like beasts bleed that much. Even just looking at this, beast seems a little bit supportive. So that means beasts would actually line up better with reptiles. You would want to play reptile and beast together. There are some beast bleed cards, I believe, but not a lot. This combined with a reptile would guarantee that you always have the bonus damage. So it's a very simple card. It's just plus 15. So on average, if you do get the bonus damage, this actually becomes an 80 damage card, which is actually higher than Nutcracker, which is at 78. So that's going to be the standard line, right? You usually have a 60 damage card, and you bump it up to an 80 damage card. Oh, next we have the plant ears. Oh, let's look at Rosa, guys. This looks so cute. This looks absolutely beautiful. So first off, we have the innate, which means you start with this. At the start of every match, you have this. Innate, it hits for 5 damage on a 0 cost as well. It applies 2 poison and sleep for 2 turns to a random enemy. Interesting. So this is a 0 cost stall. This is a really interesting because if you apply poison and sleep, what sleep is, I believe, is for maybe 2 turns. It's going to be, I think, the way fear works, where it cannot take action. It will not be able to take action for 2 turns. Right? So if you play other Axies on 2 cards, it will wake it up, right? We're not sure though, because I think with sleep, Kaku actually removes sleep, right? This actually might be a stun for 2 cards. Because let's see here, if it applies sleep, right? Let's see your Axie goes to sleep for 2 turns. That means that Axie can't play, but your other 2 Axies can still play cards, so it's not super overpowered. The only thing is, can you put an entire team to sleep? No, because this only plays 1. It plays 1 random sleep and it vanishes, so it removes it. So we will see how that works. This could be very interesting for a stall though. This might be really annoying. Because we might actually have a sleep team that applies debuffs without dealing damage, but maybe the debuffs wake him up. Next we have is Clover. Clover, we won't know what this is because this is just a straight up summon, right? But it's gonna be cute. It's a little pot with a bunch of little clovers inside, so we don't know what they will do. Because summons could actually do something cute, or it could actually be... They could be very meh. Yeah, and one thing that was interesting is if you actually have 3 Rosas, right? You could put 3 Axies asleep. What is the problem with that? If on the first draw, this is 0, and if you have 5 cards, 3 of them are 0s. And then you draw 2 1-cost cards, right? You only play 2 energy. You only play out 2 energy, and we already know we start with 3 out of 3, so it's not super energy efficient. Ideally, you have 2 Rosas, and then you can play the 3 energies out guaranteed. So 2 Rosas would be ideal in my opinion, because you know you get the Rosas, but you don't know what the other 3 cards you're going to draw. Next is we have Hollow. This Axie loses 75 HP. Summon a trunk. because this gives it away. 75 HP. If you guys know, in Pokemon, this is called a substitute, right? So you summon a trunk, which is just like a meat log right here, and it just tanks. And essentially, it could probably just be very, very tanky, and it goes in the front. It might actually have a taunt, right? This is the substitution jutsu, where you summon a little thing in front and it blocks. Do my U's look like my N's? I apologize for that. Let's ignore that and move along. Okay, next we have Sakura. This was revealed in the earliest leak, right? This is a 2 cost with no heal or shield or direct effect. Target any ally. Whenever you play a card this battle, heal this Axie for 10 HP. So what we have is a power. So this plays indefinitely. So once you have this, it goes up forever. What you could do is you can combine this with something like Bumpy. So every time you play a card, right? What Bumpy does is every time you play one card, it gives you 10 shield. So if you have Sakura plus Bumpy, every time you play one card, you gain 10 shield and 10 HP. Which means if you have this on a tank, this would be horribly annoying. You could just do this forever and your opponent is super annoying. The thing about powers though, you cannot play power over and over and over. What happens is once you play power, it's done for the game. All right, it's quote unquote banished. Because otherwise, what if you have a super energy efficient deck, you can just play a power, cycle back into it, play a power again, and then at some point you just become indomitable. No, the powers can only be played once, and let's start the match. Okay, so Leafy is 0 cost, 10 damage. Randomly deal 2 hits. So we have ×2. Consume up to 3 leaves to deal 5 damage per leaf consumed. So consumes up to 3. Let's say on max we have 3, right? So this adds 15 more damage to this, making this 25 ×2. So this is a 0 cost, 50 damage card. It's conditional though, very, very conditional, because you need a card that plays the leaf first, because if you draw this on its own, it's 20 damage on 0, right? If you draw the leaf first, it is only 20 damage on a 0 cost, which is not very good. It's cute if it's free damage, and it can also be used to proc secrets, right? If they have a bunch of secrets that say reflect, you play this, he reflects nothing, right? So this is really useful actually to break secrets. Right, you play the 0, it hits twice, they reflect 25%. 25% of this is only what? 5 damage on a 25 reflect. So that's a very cute card to use for that. And now we have Lotus as our last plant card. Lotus is just straight up stats. We're gonna see probably a lot of this. This is 50 shield and 30 health, but it's only on this Axie because it has no targeting. So you cannot play this as a support card. You can only use this on yourself. So this is ideal for a plant tank, right? You play the Lotus, it's just raw 80 stats, right? The only problem here is since this is a heal, if you're full HP, the heal is useless. So occasionally this will only be 50 shield. So that's the reason, that's the problem with it splitting. It's a very high stat line, but it's conditional stat line. So yeah, I'll get to chat right after this reveal. And we have next is the tassel. We have the 10 health, the 10 heal here on a 1 cost. Heal your team. So this is ×3 all the way up until 6, right? Because it could be your summons as well. One problem is if you only have 1 Axie, 1 to 2 Axies left, this is a much weaker card. Heal for 4 bonus HP per card on your hand. So on average, you have 5, right? It's only if you play it first. Only if you play this first. If you have 5 cards, it's gonna be 20 heal. So it's 20 heal added on top of this, which can be 30 on 3 guys, right? Let's say on average it's gonna be about 30 on 3 guys. Which is, oh, you guys can't see that, sorry. It's gonna be a 90 heal, which is okay. 90 heal is not bad. The only thing is, can you draw additional cards? Or the problem is if you have an initial card, right? Initial means other cards have to be played first. Therefore, you can't play this right away. That means this loses value. So this usually is on a deck where you don't have initial and you want to play it right away if you need the heal. Next is the Larva. Larva is scry 2 cards. What scry is you look at the top 2 cards in your deck. Top 2. And then I believe you choose to discard You can choose to discard one. Any you like. Either 1, 2, or 0. The reason why you're like, why would you want to discard a card? Because if you look at the matchup and say, okay, it's a poison healing team, AoEs are useless because if I poison them all and deal damage in an AoE, they AoE heal back up. I need single target cards to burst and kill their support. So this is this thins the deck. What thinning means is you make the deck smaller so you have a higher chance of drawing the cards that you actually want. So then you gain 1 energy if you discard 1 skill card upon scrying. So we know we can discard just because this card text actually tells us. So if you discard a skill card, you will gain 1 energy. It's only 1 though. It doesn't say per. So this can be a 0 that essentially can give you 1 energy. The only problem is, what if you scry 2 power cards, right? If you discard 2 power cards or 2 attack cards, this card is only a cycle, which is still okay. It's still very, very useful. Okay, next up, we have the Ear Wing. We know this as an AoE from the earliest reveal. So this attacks all enemies. So it can be ×3 against 3 Axies, but this also hits summons, which will be really useful because if the summons are actually 20 HP, you can wipe out the summons in one go. Especially if you add damage. If you add damage here, you can blow summons up. Because we don't know how tanky they are. I don't believe they would be the same health as an Axie though. Definitely not. Deal 3 damage per card in your hand. So it's going to be the same as Tassel, right? So it looks like for bugs, you want as many cards as possible. And you say, oh, how are we going to be adding more cards? Because there's certain cards that say add. So add 1 card to your hand, right? Usually it's add 1 card or add 1 card for the next turn, right? On the second turn. So you can set up for this. The only problem is, how do you know you're going to get Earwing? Easy. You play something like Scry. If you scry and you see Earwing, you know you're going to have it next. So you don't discard it, you leave it in your deck, and then you add as many cards as possible this turn, and you draw into your Earwing. Why? Because you already know it's the top 2 cards in your deck. Next is Ear Breathing, which is very interesting art here. Ear Breathing looks almost a little horrific. It is 2 energy cost for 30 damage, right? Randomly deal 4 hits. So this is a 4 times multiplier. Shuffle 1 goo per enemy hit into enemy's discard pile. That's going to be really annoying. So goo is actually the 1 cost. I forgot that goo is actually the 1 cost for and to remove. You must play to remove. I forgot that this was it. Play to remove. So that means Jinx actually has an additional effect. Jinx actually might also be a curse. Interesting, because goo should be this, because it is the same thing as slime in Slay the Spire, which means if they play minions, right? If they play a summon, that means you can add 4 of these to an that is vile. That is vile, because this is already 120 damage on 2 energy. Which means it's about 60 per energy, which means it's already a strong card, right? I'm sorry if you guys can't see that, but this is already a solid card. Randomly deal 4 hits though, which means it can be completely RNG, because this means it could hit 1 Axie 4 times. It could hit the 1 Axie times 4, which means you only add 1 goo. So this is, if you believe in your numbers and your luck, you can put 4 dead cards in their hand. Into their deck actually, because it says discard pile, because that means it won't affect their deck right away. So if you play this very, very early on, it's going to be 2 or 3 turns before he redraws back into them. But if you play it when the deck is almost gone, there's a higher chance that he's going to draw into these goo cards. So that's going to be good timing. Next is we have the Beetle Spike on the 1 cost with 45 damage. Deal pure damage. Apply bleed for 4 turns. This is not a mechanic shown in Axies or Slay the Spire. In other games, what pure damage is, it ignores damage reduction, right? If you say you have a plus damage reduction, right, from some sort of other card, like anything like that, it ignores it. Let's say you reduce all damage taken by 50%, it will still deal its 45 damage no matter what, and it applies bleed. So this is an anti-tank card. It deals 45 no matter what. So let's say they play a card that says, have 99% damage reduction, it deals 45 no matter what, and they play 10%, deals 45 no matter what. So this is very, very good against pure shield tanks. I'm not sure if pure damage would ignore shield though. It would be interesting if it did, because yeah, it might be, this is essentially a tank buster card, so we'll have to see what pure damage is, because we have not seen this effect on any other card, I believe, so far. Whenever this is drawn, gain 30 shield. Oh, look at this cute little leaf bug. It's so cute. This is going to be one of my favorite cards just because of the art and because this is drawn, gain, shield. Because on its own, you could play it for 45. So combined, it is 75 shield. So it's already above the standard stat line of 60, right? It's already above that. The only thing is, you don't have to play the leaf bug. It's 30 shields for free no matter what. The reason why is I prefer shield over heal. Because if you draw and you have plus HP instead, if you're full health, it does nothing. If you're full health and full shield, it doesn't matter. The shield just gets added on. There's no waste to the shield. But that's why I think Leaf Bug is going to be a very nice card, which is good because I have a million Leaf card bug for plants and things like that. On Pink Cheek, obviously, but this is going to be Leaf Bug on the ear, so we're going to have to see how that's going to be. Pink Cheek is a 0 cost on the bird cards. Discard up to 2 cards, then draw that many. Interesting. So this is a targeted cycle. The reason why you say, oh, why would you want to discard cards? Because if you have 2 cards in your hand that are completely useless, right? Let's say you draw out of your 5 cards, right? You have your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards. Let's say you draw a 0 cost, a 0 cost, a 0 cost, a 2 cost, and a 2 cost. You have 3 energy out of 3. You can play a 2 and all your zeros. Oh, I'm sorry if you guys can't see that. I will, I should actually use the right side more. I'm gonna do it right here. So, see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we get a 0, a 0, a 0, a 2, and a 2. You can't play all of your cards properly because you cannot play the 2s together, right? You can play all the 0s, no problem, but the 2s don't work. So you have, if you can play Pink Cheek over here, you'll discard 2. Let's say you discard one of the 2s. You want to go for these, one of the 2s and one of the 0s, and then you draw a 1 and a 1, which means now you can play a 2, a 1, and all your 0s, which is very efficient. You use up all your energy properly. But the only thing is, you can only use this once because this will banish. So it's a very situational card. Next up is we have the Little Owl, which is very, very common, right? This is a common ear because a lot of people aim for the speed. All Little Owl cards of this actually gain +6, so this is the same as the Nutcracker. This can become a 78 damage card. It's pretty straightforward. Next, we have the Peacemaker, 60 damage here. Apply weak for 2 turns. So this is minus damage on an enemy Axie on a percentage. Oh, probably about 25%. I'm estimating 25%. Anything more would be too ridiculous. If target previously has weak, deal 15 more damage. So this can go up to a 75. Which is not bad. Which is not bad because that's above average, right? This is going to be pretty solid. So this is, birds seem to look like they apply a lot of weak. So they're constantly debuffing and making it so that it's a lot harder to deal damage. And we have the Early Bird. If initial, draw 1 card. So this is very, very good because it is essentially you play 65, draw 1 card. The only reason why it's not OP is you cannot play a million initials. If you have too many initials, right, you can only play 1 per turn. But this is good draw, right? So let's say you have a lot of 0s. You can play 1. Draw into a 0, and then you can play that with 2 other 1s, right? So you can play it with a 1 and a 1, or you can play that with a 2 cost. So that's going to be a very interesting way of doing it. Card draw is useful because if you have useless cards in your hand, you draw 1. Even if you don't have the energy to play all of them, you might draw a better 1 than the ones you previously had in your current hand. And next we have Curly, where this guy is doing a good swashbuckle where he shatters the shield, deal 25% more to shields. So this is pliers, right? Because here's the thing. Actually, it's not pliers. It's actually more like spiky wing because it only deals the bonus damage to the shield. Remember, it's not deal 25% bonus damage if they have shield. It's only to the shield. So this is a tank breaker. Right? So on average, so this would be an additional 25, which isn't a lot of damage, but it would go up to approximately almost about 80 damage, give or take. Okay, and the last one is Risky Bird, 90 damage. Apply weak to this Axie. So you debuff yourself. This is a self decrease on damage, right? So it's you use this last. Right, this is the same as Risky Feather right now. You lower your attack, but ideally what you can do is you can just play out all of your cards and play this one as your last card, and it's okay because the weak doesn't affect you because you can just play out your other. Or on the flip side, you can play this first on your bird and then play your other Axies, and then you just ignore your bird. So that's one way of playing that Risky Bird. And that is gonna wrap up our ear reveal. I hope you guys had a great time, and I'll see you guys in the next one.